Let's go back to our top story and get reaction on the passing of anti-apartheid activist and former PAC President Motsoko Pheko. Joining us now is PAC leader Mzwanele Nyhontso. Mzwanele, good evening and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers, and thanks for having us.
Mzwanele, as we hear of the passing of Dr. Motsoko Pheko, a man that is synonymous with the PAC, that is synonymous with the Africanness and just what the PAC stands for. What is the reaction from the PAC to his passing?
A great loss. A great loss to the PAC of Azania. A great loss to the Azanian nation. And of course, a great loss to the African nation and Africans in the diaspora, because Dr. Pheko was an internationalist. Also, we want to take this opportunity and pay our condolences. Convey our condolences to the family of former PAC President Pheko, and say to them, their sorrow is our sorrow, their loss is our loss, and a great loss to the Azanian nation, especially on the eve of the elections in South Africa.
Mzwanele, let's talk about the role that Dr. Pheko has played in shaping South Africa, but also shaping Africanism within South Africa. From your perspective as the Pan-Africanist, as a Pan-Africanist party, for that matter?
Firstly, Dr. Pheko was the leader of a PAC branch in 1959, just before he went to exile. He also he was detained because he was leading the insurrection in that area. And of course, he left the country for Lesotho. He ended up in Zambia, and he was also at the United Nations. That's where he represented PAC at the United Nations. And it was one of those few people who were calling for sanctions against South Africa. He was one of the few people who were talking about what was happening, the plight of African people in Azania at the time. He was one of the people who played a role in isolating South Africa. In fact, through Dade Pheko and John Nyati Pogela, the former chairman of the PAC, it was their efforts within the United Nations that the ANC was also recognized in the United Nations. So he played a great role, and he came back in 1994 in Azania, and he became the deputy president of the PAC, and later he became the president of the PAC. He wrote several books. He is known for writing books about African.
Mzwanele? Mzwanele, we seem to have lost you. We will try and reconnect with PAC leader Mzwanele Nyhontso. We lost the connection to him there. Mzwanele, if you can hear me, you are muted, so please try and unmute so that we can continue this conversation. And as we continue to pay tribute and remember Dr. Motsoko Pheko, who has played a big role as far as Pan-Africanism is concerned. Mzwanele, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, we lost you a bit there, but just continuing with the conversation. Earlier on, I was in a conversation with Zandi, and we're talking about the issue of legacy and the role that a person like Dr. Pheko has played, but not only to the PAC, to South Africa, to Azania, but also to Africa. As this is a person who also was highly involved in Zambia and other parts of the continent.
That's why I'm saying this man was passionate about land question. He was passionate about it, and unfortunately he's passing away, and the land is not yet returned to the African people, because he would always declare that until land is returned to its rightful owners, then Azania will be free. Of course, Dade Pheko was passionate about the unity of Africa, Pan-Africanism, from coast to coast, from Cape to Cairo, from Morocco to Madagascar, was very passionate about the unity of African people, even Africans in the diaspora. and his legacy will definitely live on, because I'm aware that he has written not less than 30 books in his life, and as old as he was still writing. He was still able to write books, and the man was out of this league.
He also, to a certain extent, Mzwanele, in some of his writings, many would say that he was controversial or opinionated in terms of where we are, in terms of freedom. I mean, one of his writings talks about the Freedom Charter and how it betrayed the dispossessed. In terms of his writing, what do you, as the PAC, take from that and a legacy that can continue to the future generations? Mzwanele, you muted us again. If you can.
I've lost you.
Okay.
I've lost you.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. I was talking about some of his writings and saying that many might talk about them being controversial, as he wrote about.
I've got your question.
Okay. You can go ahead and respond then.
Then let's not say he was controversial. Maybe let's say he was opinionated.
Yes.
And remember, yes, he at some point declared Freedom Charter that it was not the Freedom Charter but Freedom Cheetah. He also wrote a book, The Land is Ours. In his speeches in Parliament, when he was the Member of Parliament, he kept on reminding everyone that the item of conflict in this country is the land. He kept on telling everybody that until that land is returned to its rightful owners, then Azania will be free. So he was opinionated. He knew exactly why he went to exile. He knew exactly why he was involved in the struggle. He knew that the struggle was not about.
Okay, we keep losing the connection to the leader of the PAC, Mzwanele Nyhontso, so we're going to have to leave it there. But thank you very much for joining us as we continue paying tribute to Dr. Motsoko Pheko.